Hello everybody, welcome to the channel Lightworkers Together. This is Val. I hope you all are doing well. Today's topic is going to be healing old wounds on your spiritual journey, and not to be confused with the dark night of the soul. That's a separate topic and a separate video, although we will touch on that just briefly in here. And just a reminder that everything in my videos is strictly my personal experience, knowledge, or whatever I've learned from other spiritual teachers. Okay? So please, as always, only take what resonates, and that should go for everything in your life. You know, regardless of what the information is that you receive, you should always check in with yourself. Look how beautiful that is. And your intuition, okay? And just take what resonates. So, as with a lot of the other videos that I do that have to do with tips for healing and spiritual tips, generally it follows on to something that I've gone through, sometimes recently, sometimes not. And this one is definitely a recent happening. As in yesterday. So very recent, you all. Sometimes if you are kind of progressed along fairly good on your spiritual path, you've already had, the dark night of the soul, and you've already done quite a bit of healing, and you feel like you're, at a pretty good place. A lot of times you will have things come up that can be past life things, and I did do a separate video on that. If you're interested, you can check out the playlist for that. This is not going to be about past life, however, and I did take myself some notes just so I wouldn't forget anything. So if you have already gone through the dark night of the soul and the majority, you feel like really the chunk or the majority of your healing is done. And a lot of us find, everybody's journey is different, but a lot of us find that when we are awakening and we're on that healing journey, when you have your initial awakening and after you have that dark night of the soul, and it can happen at any point. Sometimes it can be toward the beginning, the middle, or later in your journey. But for me, it happened very much at the beginning, and then it was just a massive round of healings, boom, 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 one right after the other. So it was like, the divine was definitely sort of trying to move me along at a fairly good pace and clear things out for me. So I had what you would call, I think, a very rapid awakening and a lot of healing. I was put in basically a good 2 years of hermiting and really just healing and going with it. It was pretty intense. But if you've already gone through, and you can feel when you've done like the big chunk of it, there's always going to be other things that will come up. Like I said, there can even be past life things that, they're not in your consciousness, and it's not going to be a memory from this lifetime that will come up. But really when you feel like, yep, kind of most of the trauma or incidences or whatever I have, I feel like, yes, those have been healed and released. So if you feel like you're at that place, sometimes it's good to kind of step back from everything and look at it and see if there is anything that kind of triggers you, or that you notice you may be feeling avoidant about. And this is how my other situation kind of came up with stuff that additional things that I needed to, an additional big thing that I needed to deal with was I had been digging everything up. I had dealt with, a lot of pretty heavy early childhood and young, age traumas and things like that. I dealt with all those, but there was something, that I had been through, and it was always kind of, I went through the whole thing of forgiveness and everything, and I felt like I really released it and I was done with it. But the truth was, I didn't really ever, and as everyone knows with healing, you have to allow all of the emotions from whatever that is to come up, right? So if you consciously or subconsciously skirt around something that you think you healed or released, there might be more work to do there. There might be more to look at, to feel, and to heal in that situation. And you have to allow yourself the space and time to sit with it, to be sure, that you're in a good place. If it is a difficult, extreme, or severely traumatic past situation, or some kind of past programming that needs healing. This is something that, after the fact, it was extremely intense, y'all. I won't lie. But it was something massively traumatic. And I wondered why I held on to it so long, and why it wasn't something that I took care of healing, like when I was really at the beginning of my healing journey, and I was, healing a lot of things. I thought to myself, I was just talking to my angels and spirit guides, why didn't I do this? And I didn't realize, I didn't really get that answer until the following morning. And they were really clear about it and said, you weren't ready for the onslaught of the emotions that were going to come. You needed to have a firm foundation in place. And it's so funny because there's this song called The Bones by Maren Morris, Maren Morris. And I'd just been listening to that song and really sort of very resonating with it, because I was like, yeah, I'm standing on this beautiful, firm foundation of love and peace and just that oneness feeling and stuff. And with so much healed, I don't have any feelings of anger or hatred, or I just don't have the negative feelings coming up. And so it took me a very long time to get to that place, to build that firm foundation, right? To do the healing and to have the self-acceptance and the self-worth, the level. I needed to be at a particular level, everybody, and a lot of you are going to know what I'm talking about, and if not, if you're on the journey, you're probably going to get to this point where you need to have, for some things, you really have to have a super firm foundation. Otherwise, if you open that box, that Pandora's box, basically, and in my mind, I saw it as, imagine this person with this old house with the basement, right? And you go down the steps into this basement. It's kind of dark and it's musty, and there's lots of boxes everywhere. In your mind, you can kind of envision it as, these boxes all hold things, right? These are memories. Some of these are, traumas and things that need to be healed and dealt with. So for mine, there was something that I had put under, I will just call it a most extreme and massive lock and key. For good reason. And it was something that, had I dealt with it earlier on, it probably would have been better for me. But everything literally does happen for a reason. It was meant to play out the way that it was, and it was meant for me to kind of wait and be where I was at on my path at this time, so that I could handle everything that came up, that I was in that better, more peaceful and loving energy. Whereas if I had been in my pre-healed energy, it would have swamped me and took me under and taken me to a very dark place. So sometimes you really do, it's like, if you will let, the universe guide you in these things, which is really what happened, is that I was guided to kind of not look in that box and leave it alone. And so subconsciously and even consciously, I kind of skirted around it until I was ready, until I was in a good place to do it. So this is the point I'm making, is be sure that you have a firm foundation of love and peace to rest on when you undertake healing something, very old wounds. And this is something that went back many, many, many years for me. So it's like those old wounds, guys, that we a lot of times think, oh, well, that's kind of fading in the past. Those tend to carry the biggest wallop. And most times it's because they happened in our youth and or our childhood. And so those things inform subconsciously actions that we take. And I was able to sit there with it, after I just had a really good release of all of that emotion, which was like some major ugly crying and stuff. But I told my angels, get ready for some really ugly crying. So anyway, it was very cathartic, though. It was very good to release it. I felt literally not just whenever I have a healing, and a lot of you will resonate with this, you feel lighter, like emotionally, mentally, spiritually, you feel lighter. But I literally felt emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically lighter. Physically, as if I put down some heavy weight. So it was seriously needed, but it's like I had to have that foundation in order to dig up this old wound and to finally face it. Facing it is not always easy. So for those that may be going through this and resonating with it, I'll just give you a little bit of kind of what I walk through to do it, in case this may be of value, may be helpful to anyone who may be doing it. So the main thing is just to allow all of the feelings to come up. Feel them, let them come up, and it can be extremely painful. You are reliving all of it. And I can tell you, like for my own situation, it was just massive pain, agony, grief, heartbreak. It was extreme. And the longer it's been kept bottled up inside of us, suppressed, right? Push down, push down, push down. The longer it's been like that, the more punch it packs when it comes up. Okay, that's what I have found. A lot of people would think, okay, well, if this is something from such a long time ago, it would lose power. But the reverse is in fact true. The longer something is kept locked up and suppressed, the more power it tends to gain and hold over us. And I sat there, like I was going to say, and just watched myself like a movie clip and saw how pressing and suppressing what had happened affected every decision. And I watched it. Every major decision I made after that was a direct reflection of not dealing with that trauma. So you really have to allow all the feelings to come up. You have to be in a safe place where you can, sit with yourself and do this, where you're not going to be interrupted and where you have the time to do it, okay? And like I said, have that firm foundation so you can do it safely. Feel them. And then the thing to do is once it's a purge. Once you let it all come up and come out and you get to that slightly kind of exhausted and numb place at the end of it all coming out, then you kind of remove yourself from the emotion part of it and you mentally look at it, right? You see what, and in that moment you see why you held on to it for so long, what emotions came out of it. Give and receive forgiveness in that moment. And that is such a healing, clearing thing to do. And for, a lot of people, they'll say, well, this is something that was done to me. It wasn't something I did. But you want to, like in any case, you want to forgive yourself for feeling, like you were not worthy, or for feeling diminished because of it. So it's like, forgive yourself for feeling guilt and things like that over some things that happen. It's like that forgiveness has to be wholehearted. It has to be from the heart, and it has to embrace everything, all parts of it. And sometimes, we don't bring up and heal these things because we're not ready to do the forgiving part either. And to really release it, you have to be able to do all of it, all parts of it, for that to really, really work. So it's like, once you do that, and then you energetically, this is what I did in my mind for my situation, and everybody is different, but in my mind, I went to just slightly past what happened, to like I could go back and see my young self and see myself curled up and see the pain I was in and how I literally held it. I pressed it down. I did not allow it to come out. And I energetically sent myself back there to just wrap my arms around my younger self and hold myself and comfort myself, to do those things that I needed at that time, but I didn't have. So you can allow yourself to do that, to give the love and comfort to yourself at whatever time period something happened or slightly after that, so that it is very, very healing, guys, to do that energetically, to go back along energetically, go back along the version of you to that timeline and that scenario, and give yourself the comfort and love, that you needed and you maybe didn't get at that time. Then once you've done that and you're feeling more settled and more clear, you can review any lessons and then release all of it, literally all pain, all guilt, all fear, grief, regret, etc. Let it all go, all of the emotions, rage, fury, whatever it was, let it all go. Just literally breathe it out, release it. Feel lighter, right? Without that internal weight. And give yourself permission to be happy and free and have an abundant and full life, full of love, full of your dreams. Literally give yourself permission to have that happy life. Because a lot of these traumas, you all, they put a yoke around us that makes us feel like we're not worthy of any of these things. And it simply is not true. So when you release and heal these things, you know that. So even if you're walking around and you've done a lot of your healing and you're like, yes, I know my worth and my value, if there's still something in there, it can be a blockage to you moving forward into that best possible outcome, that higher version of yourself and that better life that you want, and following your dreams and having them coming true. So just give yourself permission to live that life and to have that, and that you totally deserve it. That's really important. That's an important step. And then after the healing, it's good to just cleanse your physical being. You can take a salt bath. You can just take a shower. You can go out and walk in the wind, take a wind bath. There's a lot of things you can do to just, you could smoke is wonderful for that. So if you have like Palo Santo or white sage or something that you can smudge with, smoke is wonderful for clearing also, and just really clear all of that energy also as well. And then after that, grounding is super, super important, because sometimes after these massive, deep-seated, old wound healings, you feel like you can just float off the ground, and you're very much more in your spiritual self, right, than in your physical self. So that's why, along with the clearing and the cleansing, grounding is super important. Get out there and ground yourself, get out in nature, and that is also healing, and it will help replenish you, because it does, when we do these healings, it does empty things out of us, and that is necessary to happen, but it's good to fill back up again too, okay? That is a crucial step to do. And then the last really important thing is to be gentle with yourself. Be kind and gentle to yourself. Step back onto your path. If a lot of times with these healings, we have to relive negative things, and we go into a lower, more negative energy, and that is necessary to pull this stuff out of ourselves. But once that happens and you've cleared it, give yourself time to breathe and kind of recuperate from that, right? But make sure you are stepping back onto your path, because you don't want to end up derailing, or to keep going over and over it in your head and then pulling and sucking yourself back down into negative or lower energies, because that's going to defeat the purpose of what you've done, and that's not going to be helpful to you in the long or the short run. So get back onto that path of light and love. Bring your vibration back up. Do some things that bring you joy and make you happy and are kind of soothing and gentle to your nature. And just move forward confidently, right? Look forward to a new beginning and see all outcomes, you all, as positive ones. And we can do that. It's like every time you heal something, every time you release it and you let it go, not only are you doing a massive service to yourself, but you are also doing it for others. Just a reminder that we are all connected. We are all one. Energetically, we are all connected. So when we do these beautiful things for ourselves, which are not easy, when we do these things, we're doing them not just for ourselves, but for everybody. And so be sure to give yourself that love, time, attention, and care that you need. Lift yourself back up, and know that you are never, never alone in what you're going through and the things that you are doing, and that there's always better days ahead. There are better days coming, okay? So I'm proud, so proud of everybody who is on this journey and who is doing the absolute best that they can do for themselves and for others. Let's continue to share our knowledge, because it's so beneficial. Sometimes you can be going through something and you can hear something or read something or see something, and that's the one thing that you need to help you to have some guidance to get through something. So if there's something, that you've been through that you can share, always feel free to comment or whatever to share that knowledge with others that might be of value, if that's something that you're comfortable doing and you're led to do. So again, always follow your intuition, but, much love to everyone and appreciation and gratitude. Hang in there, keep doing the work. You're doing wonderful. And keep shining that bright, beautiful light. You are loved beyond measure. I'm sending love, peace, and unity to everyone. Stay safe and stay well, and I'll talk to you all again soon. Bye-bye.